like you need to solve a bazillion questions, as Sandeep so rightly said. It was about putting in that focus in each of the questions with the right mindset that really helped me. Slightly different focus. What I did was I didn't focus on the volume of questions, but on maintaining the error log and also revisiting the error log every week or 10 days. So right now I have 3 spreadsheets, each capturing a different version of the error log in each of my journeys. As long as you have the flexibility with your target schools, wherein they admit MBA candidates for both GMAT as well as GRE, you always have a choice, whichever test you want to take. Because there are institutions which would only consider your GMAT. I'd recommend checking with the target schools.
And a warm welcome from Team Top. And heartiest congratulations on scoring that phenomenal 340. We know how rare it is. You have worked extremely hard for that score.
It feels almost surreal. Yeah.
Right. So what was your first reaction after you saw that score on your screen?
To be honest, I thought that it was probably the marks out of which I've gotten, like it was just the total score that was being reflected, and it wasn't my score. I had to see it again, just to get myself that feeling that, oh yeah, it's actually a 170. I could feel that the test was progressing well as I went through each of the sections. I had the hunch, but how good would the actual results be? I wasn't so sure of until the score flashed on the screen. And even after that, I wasn't sure until the official scores kicked in.
I mean, if I had been scoring a 340, I would have certainly been taken aback and I would have felt that this is a dream. Someone pinch me.
I myself did not hit next until it all just started to sink in. Yeah.
Right. And so tell us more about your journey. I mean, what led you to start preparing for the GRE?
Yeah. So it's been a whirlwind of a journey, to be honest. When I started of thinking the GRE, that would have been earlier in March last year. It was just a passing or a fleeting thought that let's just take the test, because a standardized test is the first thing that you do when you think of doing an application for an MBA abroad. So keeping that in mind, I just started things off. But managing a full-time job and other commitments, so to speak, somehow GRE always took a back seat. That's when a friend recommended me to sign up for the top 1% life course, because self-pacing just won't cut in. So I reached out to Janvi, and she has been quite supportive. She's been quite prompt with helping me with the onboarding and everything else. It's quite seamless. I had a lot of questions, and she's been quite instrumental. So thanks to her as well. Then that's when I decided to take up the course. But again, to be very honest, I again lost momentum midway through, because I wasn't faring well on my verbal section. Math was relatively easier to catch up on, but it was verbal that was the biggest challenge for me. And I thought that I'll reach out to Tanish sir and for my specific doubts. And he suggested that I should go through the knowledge videos and the Octave videos in the basic course that Sandeep sir has taught.
Octave has been instrumental in many
Yeah.
other candidates' stories as well.
Exactly. So it was like a magic boon, to be honest, because if you follow it to the T, it takes time to catch up and to
Internalize it.
practice. But once it comes naturally to you, it feels almost second skin. And no matter the question, a CR or an RC, how difficult, you won't be scared. Like earlier, I used to be scared. If what if I get a tough RC or a CR, I'm done. But that sort of a fear, it went away when I started applying Octave. So I think application was key here. And it's not like you need to solve a bazillion questions, as Sandeep so rightly said. It was about putting in that focus in each of the questions with the right mindset that really helped me getting into the depths of those. So when I started again with a slightly different focus. I what I did was I didn't focus on the volume of questions, but on maintaining the error log and also revisiting the error log every week or 10 days. So right now I have three spreadsheets, each capturing a different version of the error log in each of my journeys. So yes, I think for verbal, I would suggest that no matter which level you're at, you can always raise the bar really high if you can, put in that effort, and it would happen sooner than you think. For me, I never, in fact, there was a phase where I dropped taking the GRE again because I was just so done. I was like, oh my God, I cannot do this again. I had it snag, and the progress just seemed stagnated at all points. The scores weren't increasing, the errors were kept repeating. That and I thought, okay, let's take the GMAT instead, and because then I think vocabulary would be simpler. It would be more logic based, but I'm glad that I did not, take that path and ultimately stuck to GRE, gave it the attention that it very much needed. And I think the material is very exhaustive. So if you do that, if you do right by the material, especially the basics videos, you'll have a solid foundation to build upon, I feel.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's absolutely something I want to bring out for anyone who would be listening to this in the future. I mean, the basic video covers everything so thoroughly, and some people just happen to skip it thinking that it is basic. So I think that's a huge mistake in anyone's prep across both the courses, GMAT or GRE.
Course.
So
Just trust the process. I think I made that mistake too initially because we feel that we're at a certain level and these things won't matter. But in the longer run, I think it does play a huge role. And if Sandeep sir has that foresight, and that's probably the reason why it's there in the sheet that's given to you and in the process that's being shared with you. So I think a little obedience goes a very long way, and the sooner you're able to, immerse yourself into it, the better it is, I feel. Yeah.
absolutely. So yes, Meher, there's something else that stood out in your entire journey. I mean, generally when people think about pursuing an MBA, the natural test that they're inclined to giving is the GMAT. In your case, you decided to go ahead with the GRE first. So
Yeah.
elaborate something on that. I mean,
Yeah,
what made
yeah,
you
yeah.
select the GRE instead of the GMAT?
Definitely, definitely. So I've been stuck in that dilemma for the longest time. But it's again, it's about playing your strengths. So I won't say that verbal was my strength because I was trapped in it for a very long time. But I'd say that I think that it's easier to score on the font section if you get the basics right, if you're paced right, and if your basics are thorough. It's relatively simpler as opposed to the GMAT. GMAT has a very different format. It tests a very different side of you, which is logical ability per se. There's decision making. There's a section, whole section towards it, and I find that I actually took the trial classes for both of them because I was still considering my options. So after going through a mock test and a class for each of those, because I think that's the best thing, that you get a very true picture of what the classes, the course, and the test would look like if you even take a trial in the first place. So that helped me understand that maybe I'm not a GMAT candidate after all, and GRE might work for me. But I also had to put in the work. It's not like it's just gonna come to you that easily. But yes, you'll have certain strengths to propel upon that makes the overall process faster. I will definitely suggest that. And as long as you have the flexibility with your target schools, wherein they admit MBA candidates for both GMAT as well as GRE, you always have a choice, whichever test you'd want to take. Because there are institutions which would only consider your GMATs. I'd recommend checking with the target schools and calculating backwards. But other than that, if that is not a problem, then I would suggest hold no biases, because yes, there's a very traditional thinking that if you're applying for a B school abroad, GMAT is the only way. But a little research would show you that a lot of colleges, they give you that flexibility, and I think it's there for a reason. It doesn't, matter if it's a GRE or a GMAT score, as long as it is a true depiction of what your intellect and problem solving skills are. So
Correct.
that's
It
my
hardly
advice.
matters whether it's GMAT or the GRE. What they're looking at, I think, from an admissions point of view, is whether you'll be able to handle the academic rigor of the course. So it's the rest of the application which holds more value, more water than the GMAT or the
I'm
GREs.
sorry, if you could just give me a minute. I'm sorry to cut you in, but I'm having trouble hearing you. Let me just grab my headphones real quick
All
so
right.
that much
Yes,
better.
not
Just
an
give me
issue.
1 minute. I'm so
Okay.
sorry. Yeah. Yeah, hi. I'm so sorry for that interruption, but
Hi,
I hope
Meher.
it's better now.
Right. So I was saying from an admissions point of view, I don't think the admissions committee of any school discriminates between the tests. They are flexible. They allow you to play to your strengths, and basically that is what a true representation of the entire picture is. So yes, I believe I recommend, because I am someone who switched to the GRE after preparing for the GMAT. So yes, GRE, I would say, because there's one fewer section to tackle. So, and the format of the entire test, I mean, you can skip between questions and return to it. So if you're an anxious test taker, it certainly helps.
More. So, for I think almost all my life, I never have been taking a standardized tests or competitive exams, which are to be taken at a competitive center. I've often found that I fumble. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Am I? Oh, perfect. Yeah. So I always fumbled and I would give up halfway through because something just didn't align. And I think the biggest blessing in this entire process has been the flexibility in terms of taking the test. I will actually do that alone. But again, I would highly recommend
Meher, could I
checking.
interrupt you?
Yeah.
I'm not being able to hear you properly, I think, because your microphone, correction, your headphones have really sensitive microphones. So a lot of other people are also actually,
There's a lot of noise then. Is it better now?
it's much better.
I'm glad. Yeah. So,
Right.
sorry for that again. But I'll just, reiterate saying that the person is way more um, like I've been an anxious test taker all my life, be it a competitive exam or taking a test at the Prometric Center. I've always felt that in a standalone environment where I'm much more familiar, things are, I feel more in control myself of the outcomes. And both of these tests, they give you that flexibility of sometimes even taking the test at home. But I would highly recommend, again, it comes with a very big asterisk that I would highly recommend you check with the AdCom or the colleges that you intend to apply to. And I think there's also, again, a very incorrect notion that GRE is easier than GMAT. And if I take the GRE, would I be only restricted to, going for a master's in a STEM program? But that's not the case. It's highly misconstrued. And I felt that I realized this along my journey, that it's not about which one is easier or which one is tougher, but it's, as you rightly said, it's about the test format and
What suits your
the kind
strengths?
of test taker you are. Yeah, and the kind of test taker you are. So it depends. But the foundation remains the same, I'd say.
At
Having gone
least
through the material for GMAT and GRE, the basics of it remains unchanged. Your,
critical reasoning
maths
remains unchanged.
remains
And there's
unchanged,
only, I think,
exactly.
geometry which is added to the math
Yes.
section. So
Yeah,
yes,
but even that's like in terms of the weightage, Tanish sir did share that it's not that much. It's not the number of geometry questions and coordinate stuff that comes in GRE is not that high. But it really depends on the test as well. Sometimes it can be, but mostly these days it's not. I've realized that much. Yeah. And the section adaptiveness, it's not question adaptive, it's section adaptive. So you get a lot more wiggle room. So if you tackled one section rightly, you get another alternate section, could be math, could be verbal, depending on the first. And then you have the time to adapt and to, pace yourself accordingly. So I think I like the section adaptiveness better for GRE as compared to being, a
same
question
here. That
adaptive.
was my reason to switch to the GRE. I happened to take it in center because I was applying to ISB. So yes, so I'm planning to apply this R1. But yes, sorry.
All the best to you. All the best to
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, I also wanted to know how many words did you memorize for your GRE entrance exam? I mean,
That's
standardized test.
so. I can't give you a count, but I definitely can tell you that breakfast, lunch, dinner, all the three with flashcards and with the word list and the vocab video that Sandeep sir has. It's approximately a 3.5 hour video demo, which talks about how we learn vocabulary. It's not about mugging up. There was a word list, of course, but there's a really interesting way that the teacher, it's a video that you can share with us. Uh, so yeah, if you could just give me 1 minute, please.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think for me, it's like I had immersed myself at least closer to time, with flashcards and my repository that I had made after watching Sandeep sir's videos, because he has a mnemonic technique. There's a way where you can just by sheer reasoning figure out not the exact meaning, but a very close one, with reference to context as well, used appropriately. So closer to time, it was all flashcards, but before that, I was referring just to the video sessions that we had and the official guide, of course. Because
All
I
right.
think the official guide year on year is a much closer insight into what the tests for that period would look like in terms of vocabulary, I felt. So yeah, and then like one resource that I additionally referred to because it was an easy way of taking revising words was the Magoosh flashcards app.
All right.
It's a free app that you can
So
have
I
on
was
your cell
just
phone.
curious,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
other flashcard applications did you use? Was it just Magoosh, or how were you
There
maintaining your
is
flashcards?
I actually had a spreadsheet for it, but that spreadsheet eventually became difficult to update and keep up with time because there's so much of word list and vocab stuff. So I started using the tablet test prep also and the Magoo flashcards, because these two we have good dashboards to sort of keep track of the words that you already know of, and they test you in different circumstances. Like so with these flashcards, the thing is that you can directly have a word reading simulation. Like get a word and you're supposed to select the direct meaning out of four options. That's one. They also put words in reference to context. Like they'll give you fill in the blanks, just how GRE actually does a two blank version, a three blank version. So all of these, they really help. Plus, I started relating a lot of words with the sentences that I've studied them in that context. So that also helped me reduce the mugging up thing, because I've often heard that this is the biggest hurdle, that one has to mug up a lot of words. But we can play smartly on that too, I feel. You can reduce that by a significant amount if you have certain references, like you see a word is often used in a statement that now remember. So framing things in context, especially in vocabulary, really helps, I think. Yeah.
Right. That was such a helpful tip. I mean, anyone who's going through his GRE prep would certainly take a leaf from that. And I'm sure that tip that you gave, anyone who implements it would be able to replicate the kind of success that you've been able to have. So, were you always good with quant, or did you also improve on it gradually?
I would say I was good with one. I was better than what I was with Google, I'd say, comparatively, but there was still a lot of room to cover. So I still remember the day when I took the first mock test without, starting my prep,
Going
just
blind into it.
going blind into it. Yeah, exactly. Just to see where I am and how much I have to move. So I remember I scored like a 150. And the biggest challenge for me was sitting through the two sections, because after the first section I was done. I said I don't want to do another section of one. And the thing that top mock focus is that the questions are so spot on with the current GRE format. that it's an exact insight into what the actual test is going to be like. So you don't need, a lot of tests. I've heard kids do 50 tests over 60 kids and testing themselves every second day. Well, I think that's not needed. Just one test off the top before I started my prep. I knew that I have a lot of prep to do. There's a lot of hard work. It's an uphill task. And I wasn't at all, where I aimed to be in math, because the thing with GRE math is that despite getting a 170, you're not in the 99th percentile because it's
Correct.
designed
It's the
so.
90, yes.
Yes,
There's
exactly.
actually a very good fact around it. So people in the US have stopped taking the test because of, I think, test waivers, because of which the large pool of candidates who are preparing for the GRE now are basically people like us who tend to drive down the percentiles for the 170th score.
I never knew that. That's interesting, actually, and makes sense. It adds up now that I think about it. But, yeah. So that's the thing, and I also feel that maths is something that can really, like, you prep for it, you get the basics in check, and you see growth and progress much faster as compared to verbal. Verbal, it takes time getting the octave right, reading through things, the vocabulary. So, yeah,
Right.
I'd say verbal easier if you've already had a solid base to build upon. Otherwise, I'd say try to just take it as far as you can, give it all in to your phones, because that is gonna give you the much needed boost. Because I think I felt really low after seeing my test scores for the first time. Like when I gave it without any prep, just
Thank
to see
God.
where I am.
Thank
Yeah,
God, because
and
I thought you were about to say that I was really I was disheartened after watching the 340 flash on my screen. Right.
but
So yes,
I was
you
flabbergasted after seeing that. Yeah, and I actually had the proctor confirm if there's an issue with the screen, or if is this the final score. So I think that was like surreal, as I've said, but the prep in itself is such a journey, such a journey.
so were you
It's
able to, yes. I'm sorry to
just like
interrupt you.
mental resilience. Yeah, it's called mental gym, regardless of which test you take. I think it's a mental exercise of staying put. Like, okay, 2 hours ago I gave a sectional test and I wasn't even able to get half of the questions right. But telling yourself that it is okay and moving forward takes a lot of grit. And I often used to study over the weekends, and because weekdays used to be a little more hectic and I couldn't take out that much time. I used to question myself that am I doing the right thing? Should I spend the weekend resting and recharging for work instead of spending my time here, because it's not leading me anywhere. So I used to be really hard on myself at times, but then I realized that it's not gonna help, and you've got to be your own counselor in that way, that you build on that strength that gets you.
Right, talking about verbal, I wanted to ask you, did you come up with some own strategies to deal with the section? I mean, the second part of the verbal, I remember sweating on that a lot while I was preparing for the test. So yes, were there any strategies that you thought or practiced in your mock test to kind of make sure that you were acing it on the final day of the test? Because I remember I used to skip, I think, the 3 blankers and then used to return to
Yeah.
them.
Yes, yes, yes. So, I think this was one of the strategies that even so suggested in his videos, along with a bunch of more. I did take that one. I used to, leave the 3 blanks because more often than not, I used to get 2 out of 3 right, and in order to get all the 3 right, I needed much more time, and I needed to have my mind at ease that the rest is done, the RCs are done, the CRs are done, and we just have this to deal with. So I used to park those for later. But what I used to do is, before parking them, I used to give them a quick glance. A lot of the times, what happens is that these 3 blankers, especially in the first section, can be on the easier side. So
you can just giving it a couple of seconds, you can understand whether you'll be able to get this right in the set timing that you've set for yourself or not. If not, then I would definitely mark it for review and park it for later. Otherwise, I would just solve it then and there and mark it for review because I didn't want to take these things for chance. Other than that, what I also did was I would not read through the questions in RCs, although there's a lot of debate around it. That we read the RC question first, that tells you which exactly areas to be focusing on while you're reading the passage. I tried that, but it didn't work out well for me. What I would do is I would go through the passage with the words, the action verbs, the ifs, the buts, moreover, however, although, the turning points, as Sandeep sir says,
Contrast.
to keep it the contrast words to keep in mind, because that's where the game changes for the tone of the passage, what the author is trying to say. So I would just watch out for those and not just worry about the fact that I'm not able to comprehend what this word means, or fussing over what the statement means, or losing track of what's going on. And also keep a mental diary of what the essence of that para means. Is that a factual thing or an argumentative thing? Just having these placeholders that I know that if there's something related to the argument, it's kept in this paragraph somewhere. I would know where to go back hunting and not do this over and again. Because one thing that I learned is going through the passage again just to get to somewhere or get to understand it is a sin that one can commit, so to speak. As sir also highlighted, that you're wasting precious time, and every minute is crucial, especially when you have parked a verbal question for later. You need a lot more time there. So I would try and save on that. And I think, yes, Dave again, couldn't thank it more. The elimination part of it, especially, you simply eliminate. And when you are marking the answers, at least initially, what I would say is that you need to counter yourself that why am I eliminating this answer? Am I convinced myself, or is there a doubt or a room of doubt for maybe this could be the answer? You need to be absolutely certain if you're eliminating something, and you need to have the rock solid reason of why you are eliminating it, why you are doing that. Unless you wouldn't be convinced yourself, they would always be conflicted between answers that you started with initially, and you need to build on that figure.
Right. I mean, a lot of what you said
Intuitively,
makes a lot of sense.
intuitively, yeah.
Yes.
Like once you practice harder, when you go deeper into practicing these questions, it comes naturally again. It's free flowing. So you might feel that initially, okay, I have to think about the elimination, I have to think about the tone, I have to think about the contrast. There's just so much to do. Okay, and then, like when I started, I used to take 15 minutes for a passage, for an RC, and maybe like 7 to 8 minutes for a CR question. And Tanish sir might second to that, because I used to sort of, bother him with questions that, oh my God, my timing is just so off. How would I tackle a question? Yeah. So I was just so worried about it. And more or less, he used to always calm me down by saying, trust the process and don't, look at the timings, look at the strategies that you have to build, the models that you have to build, because that's what's going to pay off later. And in the end, I think it's really good work out there.
So yes, Meher, I think this is my second last question, or maybe the third last. Won't bother you for long. So I wanted to ask you, how many mock tests did you sit for before appearing for the real deal?
I took all the mock tests. I think I was roughly, I might get the figures wrong right now, but I remember doing all of them. And I did them twice, in fact. So this is my second attempt, or no, this is my third attempt in GRE. And I thought that initially I thought of taking an additional subscription to maybe a Moodle or a target test or any festival platform for more mocks. that's when I realized that it's not about, exploring more mock tests, because there was significant gap between this attempt and the last attempt. So, and I have a very volatile memory. I mean, I do remember the question, but not exactly the question. I know the gist of the questions. I was like, I don't think I'd like to subscribe to more tests because I wasn't sure how close they are to an actual GRE. So I went ahead and I reset. That's a very good functionality that you have with the top portal now, that you can reset all your tests. You can
Right.
download the previous test reports and you can reset all the tests.
Correct.
So that's what I did. So before my second attempt, I think I had 2 or 3 mock tests, which I didn't attempt at all. Rest I had already. And before this attempt, what I did was, I think 2.5 months before, I reset all my tests, downloaded the test reports and reset all my tests. And I used to, take them in any order. So the last one first, the second one last. So that was the thing that I did. And I think it was probably a very good decision because I could see what I did differently this time than the last time. How I could see the progress tangibly, how things were the last time around when I used the same test. My timing had nearly reduced by half. My accuracy had gone up by maybe very bad times before. So I think that really was giving the much needed boost going in. God knows you needed during the test. You sometimes just so anxious that you need to understand that, yes, I've done it earlier, I've gotten this scores earlier. And towards the end, I was averaging at 330 plus. I did peak at 337, I think. Yeah, 337 I did peak. I was consistent with my quant scores because I understood that in order to achieve my
Yes. Yes.
target score, I need to just ace quant because that's when you can push harder. And I could see that translating. So 170 was consistent in the last 3 months in the end. But the verbal being was something which really
I think
strikes me
it
on the
fluctuates for a
test.
lot of people. I think that's been the case for me as well. So
Yeah.
yes, verbal is something that gives everyone the jitters.
Yes, exactly. Like I was able to cross the 160 threshold, which I'd set to myself. And in fact, I then, thought that why not just, a little harder, a little more focus, and you'll be able to cross 165. Did that in the last 3 to 4 mocks, but I wasn't expecting a perfect score. And like while the test, I felt that I was much more relaxed. Because, I knew I was doing something right, but I didn't know how much of it. And I was like, God, anything above a 165 is gonna make me happy. But I think it all worked out, and it turned out to be a perfect test.
I think it's probably because the mock portal, the tests that you have are slightly difficult than the real deal.
Exactly. Like I think the RC and the vocab part is just it was quite honestly a lot easier than what the mock portals had to offer. I don't know how it happened. So maybe GRD has probably lowered.
No, it
Uh,
hasn't.
it hasn't.
No,
I
it
have
hasn't.
no idea. Or maybe I did things differently around this time, so it helps. But yes, it is true. It's in fact true for the GMAT as well, because I have access to the GMAT portal and I can definitely do that for the GMAT as well. And in comparison to the other websites as well. London Business School has a free mock test available for both GMAT and GRE, and I did give that one. I think a month, 2 months ago. I was taking the top mock courses only dedicated, mock test courses dedicated to. But just to explore, I came across LBS's free mock test, and I took that, and I thought, oh my God, the test isn't supposed to be this easy. Then I took an ETS official mock,
Right.
which I had saved until the test day. So I took that 3 days before my test, and in that I got a 338 out of a 340. But I was like, okay, maybe just because it's the free mock test.
Yes, I think the free mock tests, they are not representative, at least in the quant section. I think verbal people still say they're fairly representative.
Questions are more direct, and I think the question distribution is a little off. in these free resources at least, they would overestimate and not give you a fair idea of your rankings in the GP section. I can see that for sure for point as well. Yes, but the top marks, I think you sorted. In fact, it was in my second attempt, where I don't know how, but one of my top mark portals had an RC on Wales, and that exact RC popped up in my EPS. Yeah.
How is that possible? I think there are
I have
some
no
questions
idea.
that are repeated from previous tests as well. So
I was, yeah, just like
yes, there is a
to
pool
give
of
a fair
questions
idea.
that people yes.
Just to give like a fair idea of like how close it can be, and at times even tougher. So like the top tests are definitely like that, and I think it's designed in a way that it gives you the right number of tests for you to feel prepared, but not overdo at the same time. Because I mean, I spoke to a friend of mine who had a 360, sorry, a 326 in their GRE, which was my yardstick when I started. And she mentioned that she took a module which had over 50 mock tests, and that's something that one must do, and it's like a non-negotiable. But as a working professional with a full-time
That's
job,
not possible.
and that's just not possible, right? So I think it's designed, the top module is designed in such a way that you get just the right amount of everything, the prep, the mocks, and the basic module.
Right. Thank you for elaborating that so well. I mean, the top mock portal for anyone I've interacted with so far. I mean, you're the first one who's appeared for the GRE that I've spoken to. Apart from that, I think a lot of people have to say a lot of good things about the mock portal on the GMAT. So yes, going forward, if you wanted to convince someone or someone who's on the fence about taking either the GRE or GMAT, what would you possibly tell them?
I'd say, whichever choice you make, regardless of that, you need to fully commit yourself, um, and not get influenced by external factors, because there's a lot of fluff that goes on. And I would highly recommend that play your strengths. It really doesn't matter in the end, as long as the colleges clearly state that they do not have a bias between a GRE and a GMAT. What matters is your commitment and uh, your honesty to the course. Because any shortcuts early on would definitely not get you the results that you're hoping for, because see top 1%, is getting flawless results, consecutive 99 percentile. And we also would, as someone who takes up the course, would want to see ourselves eventually there, right? So that doesn't come with shortcuts. Been there, done that, guilty as charged, but it doesn't work that way. So the beauty is that it's designed for working professionals, and if you are one, then I'd say don't take any more shortcuts. It's designed to the field right now, and just trust it. And I'd say there's no better time to start than now.
All right, Meher, this had been such a fantastic interaction. I mean, you've added so much of value and really been able to address how you went about your prep so well. Massive congratulations on the perfect 340 score that you've been able to achieve. My entire team at Top 1%, Sandeep sir, and the rest of us are extremely proud of you. So thanks for
Thank you so
again
much.
sparing the time.
Thank you so much.
Wishing
And
you all the best for your applications.
I also would like to thank Sandeep sir, Kanush sir. They were been instrumental in guiding me and helping me get to this point. And I'm sure they're going to be great test takers even after this. Be a GMAT or the GRE, I think. I'm a top 1% loyalist now, in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
So make sure to recommend it further and pay it forward, right?
Of course, goes without saying. Thank you so much.
Right, man. All the best with your applications. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.